I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't know. How do I say this without sounding toxic? Okay, so my thoughts on some of the wildcard teams, right? If I look at some of the games... Now, I think this is obvious to a lot of people. This is obvious to a lot of people, right? This is going to sound toxic in a way, but it's not. If you watch, like, any major region team in Plains versus a Plains team from a minor region or a wildcard, there's just a pretty... Not big, but there's a skill gap, right? Between the individuals. Like, the laners are just not as good. The junglers are just not as good. Why? Because they've been scrimming worse teams. They play on worse solo queue servers. And they're in a weaker league. That's just the reality of it, right? You have a team like LNG and HLE. They play in stronger solo queue. They play against better teams, and their league is 10 times harder. So you can analyze the game, and you can say, like, well, they could have done this better, and well, they could have done this better. But the reality is, right, these players just are not as good, right? It sounds really stupid and maybe a little bit toxic in a way, but the players are just not as good. And it sounds obvious at the same time. But if I was to analyze and break down these games, sometimes I would have to be brutally honest, you know? I don't think anyone's shocked with me saying this, but if I was on the desk and, like, breaking down some of the games, I would just say, honestly, like, look, I could break down this game and say that they could have done this, they could have done that, and maybe they could have done this. But the reality is, the lanes just aren't as good. And already the game is just falling apart. The junglers are not as good. So already the game is falling apart. Like, what... I can sit here and look at your game, but the team just isn't good enough, right? That's what I would say if I was analyzing these games on the desk. I would be honest. I would say, like, look, yeah. It's an upset if they win. I hope they win, you know. I hope they win. I hope they can make an upset, but reality is they're just not that good compared to the enemy team.